good afternoon,
second.
and happy Valentine's Day to you all. We'll recognize that in our conversation. So I am officially opening an executive session. I understand that the recording is already off, so we're clear in executive session, but I guess I'll read through this just to follow the pattern.
We are in fact off.
We are in fact off. The Eugene City Council will now 02E and ORS 192.6602H to discuss the negotiation of a real property transaction and to consult with legal counsel regarding current litigation or litigation likely to be filed.
what's being passed around, and there's enough for everybody, is a potential motion that you could choose to make with some additional language, and it can be modified in any way anyone sees fit.
Okay.
Okay, so just to bring everyone up to speed, so we're looking at a motion related to our agreement with the county and how we're proceeding on this, on the execution of that agreement. So do I have a motion on the table?
Anybody want to make this motion?
Okay, I'll do it. I move to direct the city manager to execute an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement reflective of Lane County's January 19th, 2018 4-point primary proposal with the addition of a December 1st, 2018 deadline for resolution of the legal uncertainties regarding the butterfly lot and update to the appraisal.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike?
Yeah, I was kind of making a joke there, but I'm glad you did that, sir. Thank you very much. I will vote against this motion, and the sole reason for voting against the motion is to be consistent with what I have always said, which is that I don't want there to be any mistake that I have support for this plan of action or this process, because I don't. I think it's the wrong direction. So I will vote no.
Alan?
I'm going to be a no vote on this one as well, not for the same reason as Mike, but because I think we should be done with this and moving on already. This proposal, I don't see how this ends well.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 2, and it passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to close out the council and open a meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. And again, we will review the same motion. So will someone put that on the table, please?
I move to direct the Board of Directors to execute an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement reflective of Lane County's January 19th, 2018 4-point primary proposal with the addition of a December 1st, 2018 deadline for resolution of the legal uncertainties regarding the butterfly lot and an update to the appraisal.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1, 2, and that passes as well. Thank you very much. And that closes out the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. And now I am opening up again our Valentine's Day, February 14th work session. Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor. We'll make a pretty quick presentation. Of course, if you're going to end up needing additional time, we'll come back. But our intent is to give you some pretty quick information that you've asked for. Deliberations, if you're able to take action today, that would be great. If not, we can come back with additional info.
All right. So I'm Mark Whitmill. I'm the manager in Building Permit Services. With me is Rochelle Nicholas. She's our Inspection Services Manager. And that program includes oversight of the business license program. So for sake of time, we'll try to speed through some of the things we were going to talk about. Real quick background, if we go back to the last time Council discussed this topic, it's back in November. Staff brought some update information about the status of TNCs in the city of Eugene, and also some basic changes that had happened in the operating environment around TNCs since adoption of Eugene's current code and rules. The intent of that update at that time was to kind of gauge interest on the part of council to make any changes to help facilitate entrance of TNCs into this market, and also to get some basic direction to staff and where it is you wanted us to go with this issue. As you're all aware, current code and rules allow TNCs to operate in Eugene, but in a practical sense, as evidenced by the fact that there are no companies currently in the city, rules as they're currently in effect are proving to provide a barrier to entrance. So, not sure best way to jump from point A to point B. So what we heard in that council discussion at the time was, I think I can summarize it, some basic interest in having that transportation option available in Eugene from a Vision Zero perspective, from getting drunk drivers off the road perspective, supporting tech industry, tourism and travel, that sort of thing. We also heard general support for changing our insurance requirements to be more representative of what's happened in the insurance industry and kind of coverage models that now exist that are specifically for TNC drivers in that TNC kind of business environment. We also heard loud and clear that there was little, if any, interest in doing anything that would effectively lower standards around public safety, which makes sense to me since the whole reason we're regulating this industry is our responsibility around public safety. We also heard the desire to, in whatever we do, to create or maintain a level playing field, to be striving for equity in the regulatory framework as it applies to both taxis and TNC companies. So what we've brought forward is a proposed approach that is intended to support our responsibility with regard to public safety, create equity in the regulatory requirements for both types of companies, and at the same time remove barriers that have proven to not be effective in getting TNCs into town. So that's what's been included in your packet. I think, again, for the sake of time, we probably want to entertain more questions at this point, or if you're not ready for questions, we can kind of continue with more explanatory.
I think we're
material.
ready. I have two counselors in the queue. So I have Alan, then Emily, and Claire. Okay, Alan, take it away. And Chris.
Yeah, I agree with that. This needs to be a level playing field for all the parties, taxis, TNCs as well. And where we've been to date is that the system needs to be safe and fair. That's why we require insurance. There's no uninsured motorists running around, that the vehicles be safe and inspected, and that we do background checks that are adequate. And I think what Medford has come up with, and that was included in our packet, has actually done all of that. The approach that staff's proposing in attachment D is a little bit more amorphous than that. There's a lot of words in there that I'm not too comfortable with, like may, as opposed to shall, for instance. But a couple of questions. Under vehicle inspections, proof of certain vehicle inspection by a certified or approved mechanic, who certifies them or approves them?
So I can't remember. I think it's called an ASE certification. It's a designation. And
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
So they have that and they go there, and would there be a specific list of things they need to check? Or just to say that
there would be a specific list, probably a form that they would fill, and that would.
And those are all over the city, and they can do them. You do that before you buy a car, for instance.
And
same kind of deal.
That process is actually already in place now for taxi cabs. We have them go through that process through a mechanic now, and then they provide that report to us as part of the business license application.
Will they be required to have a fire extinguisher in the vehicle?
Yeah, we can include that. We haven't gone to that much detail yet.
Under driver certification, criminal background checks, item A, where it says safety will be maintained by verifying the driver identity and having an up-to-date list, which could be accomplished through a business license program. I think we should definitely do a business license program, not have it be could be, but shall be accomplished in part by a business license program. So, so I'm wondering if we move forward that we want to be more affirmative about this. The idea here is that this would be done through administrative regulation, and we want to give clear direction to the city manager.
Yeah, so if a majority of the council, there's some of those kinds of things, that would be good for us to know if that's the intent of the council on some of that.
Yeah, I think adopting Medford's language and code is where we want to be going. And then On B, independent criminal background checks may be performed on TNC drivers. I want to see an independent check, not just having one of them do it on their own. And then and I assume we're going to do a business license program. So then I would want us to use that information to then do our own criminal background checks by EPD. And the cost of all of that, I assume, would be covered by the fee on an annual basis, which would be $60 in Bedford's case for the driver, $1,000 for a TNC, and $100 for a taxi company. So I would want to see us do that. And then two more, one related to ADA requirements and one related, how do we deal with that? And second, the last one is the right to audit. How is that acceptable to the TNCs, and how would we do that, and what would be the cost of doing it?
So they are in support of us doing an audit, and that is built into City of Medford's, actually to every jurisdictions, and so we will build that into our administrative rules as well. The ADA, we are still exploring how to best do that. As you know, there is a shortage of ADA. I think we have one accessible van for most of Eugene Springfield area.
One?
I believe so. I believe budgets got the, and then of course LTD has their options, but just under our system, under the taxi cab system, we have one. As far as that, so we are currently exploring the possibility of doing a per ride fee, and that's something that is actually paid for by the rider. It's something that Portland does, as well as a few other jurisdictions. And so we've begun that research on how to best do that and how to set that fee. I believe Portland collects that fee from the TNCs like quarterly, and then that money is specifically set aside to pay for any administration of the program, as well as how it may be needed to help the ADA in the community. And so that would be something that we would explore.
Yeah, I think that's very important that we comply with that part and do it through a fee. Sounds like a good one. But I would like us to give clear direction to the city manager that we want to adopt something that's very, very similar to Medford's ordinance.
All right, Emily?
Code.
Alan asked most of my questions. I'm a little concerned about the background checks. Not that I don't want them, but I thought that was one of the stumbling blocks of Lyft and Uber for coming here, was they didn't want to have to pay for the extra check.
So just for the interest of time, we kind of shortened our presentation. We were going to get into that a little bit more, but maybe it will help with other questions. So the way we have it set up, and the proposed option, should you guys choose to go that route, is that there would be a separate process where drivers will come in and get their driver certification as what is referred to as a business license. If a driver has gone through the process under a TNC company and they receive what we're kind of referring to as an endorsement, meaning they've already gone through a background check and gone through that process, we do have the option within our code to give a temporary certification, and the purpose of that would be to get folks out there and employed as quickly as possible, and that addresses the TNC's concern of our process really slows them down. And so that would be an option for them. But when they do submit their business license to get their driver certification, the city will be running a background check independently.
So the license would pay for that?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Catherine, you want to clarify?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I was confused, and so some of you may be confused about what's at your seat. In your council packet, there was an update, as they fleshed out some of these details, there was an update of what we could, with the specificity we could actually offer you today. So based on Councilor Zelenka, your question about attachment D, on your green sheet on the back side, you will find a more specific motion that is more specific about direction to the council. And Councilor Zelenka, what you were getting to about the administrative changes is just its direction around kind of what our proposal is, which is changes to the administrative rules, and then also a specific direction to the city manager to bring back, to schedule a public hearing on code amendments to 3.345 to address what Rochelle just spoke about, which is a minor tweak to 3.345 sub 3 to allow somebody to actually get that initial employment with TNC, but come in, apply for the permit, the license, the certification, I guess we're calling it a certification, which then gets us all their information, and we run that background check. They get a temporary one. There's just a little minor tweak to sub 3 to make sure to address the chicken and the egg problem that exists right now. And then another one is we believe a striking of a requirement around then an additional separate license for the car itself. That just kind of becomes unnecessary and superfluous, I think, is where we're going. So that's what this motion does. It's more specific than what you had in your packet.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And now I have Claire.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing you say in this proposed, in terms of the background check, is the driver would be required to submit for a business license, and then we would conduct our background check, which would be the same as what we are doing for our taxi drivers. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, that's a very important baseline for me. I am not willing to compromise on the background check piece. And I appreciate that other jurisdictions have implemented these changes, but how long have those been in effect? How much are we able to monitor the results of those changes and ensure that they are continuing to meet public safety standards for their community? And I also, like Councilor Zelinka, don't want to see a lot of mays or cans, but shoulds and shall in our language. And I also feel like anything we're allowing for the TNC also needs to be provided for our traditional taxi companies, so that we're not imposing greater burdens on one versus the other in terms of our regulatory landscape. So those are the values that I want to see. I know we got a little rushed today, but it would be very helpful for me if we could see in a future packet, what our current codes are, what the proposed changes are, and so that we just have those clearly laid out. And then I think we do need to look at the ADA accommodations. This community has had a reputation for being very mobility friendly for people who use wheelchairs. And if we are providing a regulatory landscape to allow lots of people to do a ride hailing easily, we need to be providing that same benefit to people who use wheelchairs in our community. So I'm not sure of the policy that helps us do that, but you mentioned one potential way. So I would be okay with moving forward with a public hearing to see how the public responds to this, and then I will have more to say on this topic after that.
Great. Chris?
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I really appreciate the work you've done on this so far, and the clarification, particularly around background checks. That was actually very, very helpful. The two-step process, I think, works for me. I am very comfortable moving this on to a public hearing. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it. There will be probably some tweaks we'll want to make, but I don't want to slow this down. It's been a long time anyway. So I'm prepared to vote in favor of going ahead and sending this forward. But I just want to reinforce the notion that this is an even playing field, and whatever we implement for this needs to also apply to taxi cab drivers.
Okay, great. And Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we need to extend it?
Well, let's see how we do.
I'm a little confused in that I just heard Alan say that mays will need to be shalls and coulds will need to be, or shoulds will need to be wills, or however you want to alter those. In other words, we're going to take the burden out of the administrative staff's ability to say these guys comply, these guys don't, and make a judgment call and put it in law and say there's a standard and this is it or not, is what I heard him say about what we need to do for the sake of certainty. And I'm hearing you and then some of my other colleagues say, well, we're clearer, we're willing to kind of soften that up a little bit. So my question is this. If we were to alter and amend as this comes forward in front of a room full of what I am sure will be 3,000 people, these mays to shalls, what will the TNC folks, how will they respond?
So I think, unfortunately, again, just given that we kind of shortened our presentation, some things got missed. And so in attachment D, we put some mays and things because it was a proposed approach, and we were kind of looking to get your feedback. And so if your feedback was, yeah, we don't care about that, we're not concerned or whatever, then we'd take it out. And so it was kind of left more as a may do this or as opposed to shall, more so just to give you guys a chance to input and provide some direction for us. And what we're hearing is that, yes, you definitely want us to run our own independent criminal background checks. And so when we move forward and do the admin rules, that's what it will say, is that we should.
Awesome, fantastic. I want to find ways to bend here within the framework of what works for everybody, because this obviously has huge public demand, and I want to be able to serve the public appropriately here. The safety question always comes up. So I'm hearing you say that we're going to license these folks and that they'll have a certain amount of time in order to acquire their licensing. Start going. The company says go, and then they'll come back and get their license at some point. Will we put a deadline on that, and if so, what will it be?
Yes. So right now the code is written that it has a 30-day deadline. And so after 30 days, if we don't issue them permanent certification, it expires.
Permanently expires, or they can then come back in, get re-upped with the company, they got another 30 days.
I suppose they could reapply, but it would create a new fee and things, so I don't think we would go that route. Our intention is to ensure that it's on us. We need to run the background check and do the screening within that 30-day period to make sure that they are getting their, permanent.
You believe you're going to get all the information from the folks about who has become a new driver?
I believe that. So what we're hearing from Uber and Lyft is that they are in support of this, and that they've already done provided a screenshot of what they're doing for Medford, which is once they finish their process, the driver gets a notification that says, great, you've done your process for us. Now you need to go see the city of Eugene and get your driver certification. And so that is in play for Medford, and they've agreed to do the same thing for
Will our
Eugene.
ordinance have a penalty for the company for either not passing along information about a new driver or for any willful bad act there?
So the way our process is set up is that it's two processes. The company comes and gets a license, and then the driver is responsible to make sure that they get their certification. So it's two processes. If a driver does not do their part and get their certification, there is a process in place that would allow us to issue a civil penalty and take whatever other enforcement action would be needed. But that would be against the driver themselves, as it's their requirement to come in and get their license.
Is the company okay? Are all the companies at this point, let me just ask point blank, is Uber and Lyft okay with this?
Uber has indicated that they are okay with our approach. Lyft is still in the process of reviewing it.
Are we now taking apart the previous pieces of what we required of taxi companies? Fees on the window, all the pieces that are different. We're taking those down out of our code now too, right? So that it'll be a level playing field?
We will still be doing a at this point, at least our thought is that we will still do we'll still require some kind of what we call trade dress so that there's identification, which will be the same thing for Uber and Lyft, is that they will need to have some kind of, whether it be
Got a sticker
right.
for a driver. But they don't need rates in the windows anymore.
They will need to have.
They don't have that now. So the administrative rules were amended. When you made the adjustments to your code to recognize TNCs as a PPV company that needed to get licensed, we made corresponding changes to the administrative rules that took off some of these, like every car has to be the same color and you've got to have lights and you need to have all this stuff. That was actually previously addressed during the last update. So there won't need to be, and there's a difference with the administrative rules right now. It's not in your code, but within the administrative rules, there's a differentiation between hailable and non-hailable, which I don't anticipate that will change. That distinction will remain, and that was done maybe 2 years ago.
And that's important to understand because the hailable ones will continue to need to do that because their rates need to continue to have their rates up and all those things because they don't have the app that shows a person what the rates are. So that would still need to be in place.
Well, it sounds to me like we've come up with a good compromise that allows us to bring ride sharing back, and I'm entirely in favor of it. So,
Move to extend 10 minutes.
Thank you.
second?
All in favor of extending? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Terrific. Thank you. So now I have Alan for a second round. Did everyone? Oh, Greg and Jennifer. Okay, Greg first and then Jennifer.
So just one quick question. Since all of these are independent contractors and they'll be doing a business license with us, will they also be subjected to registering with the state as a sole proprietorship?
I don't know the answer to that question. We certainly can reach out to some of our governmental partners and find out because within Portland, or that question will have already been answered. So if that's the answer you would like, we certainly can get that for you.
Yeah, I'd like to know whether that's the case or not.
Hey, Jennifer.
Thank you. I really like what you guys have done. I really appreciate the thought about the fee system and how we might be able to bring some ADA accessibility along with this. My question is, I like the whole idea of, they have the business license and the background check, and that's all great, and then we have these audits, but I think some of what Mike was getting at was, let's say these companies are less than honest. Are these audits going to catch people so they're not slipping through the cracks and driving when they shouldn't be?
So already we already have a system in place where we have a complaint-driven process, and so I think you're kind of alluding to if a driver goes out and drives without getting their license, their certification from us, and so we have folks that already do that now under the taxi requirements, and so we'll follow our normal process of we're complaint driven. So if somebody calls us, which they do because that's a competitive market, and so if somebody complains, we will address it. We also have we will require the certification be posted, visible within the vehicle itself. And so that will allow folks to know that they have in fact gone through our process and have been certified, meaning they've gone through a criminal background check and all of that. And so we're going to do some outreach to the community and let them know to be looking for that. And if they don't see that, they should contact the city. And so through that process, I believe that we will be able to enforce that.
Okay, but beyond getting complaints, there's probably no way we would catch these people if the companies were being less than honest.
The companies are not going to give us a list of drivers.
Yeah, okay.
That's true.
Okay, Alan, you have one last comment, and then we'll put the motion on the table.
Yeah, so our criminal background checks, my understanding is it happened in one day. So the delay that they were objecting to is really just a red herring, just to let people be clear about that. When was Medford's code adopted?
I think it was in December, so just a couple months.
Are the TNCs operating in Medford under these rules?
They are.
So they've, in essence, Lyft and Uber both in Medford. So they've, in essence, already agreed to these rules. My intent here was to get some certainty around this. I appreciate the motion, but it doesn't quite get there for me. I would like to have it say somewhere in here, and maybe Catherine, you can figure out where to insert it, but somewhere in here say based on Medford's code. And
Say again? Based on what?
Based on Medford's code, or something to that effect, so that it's basically we're going to create rules that are similar to the program that Medford set up, that all the TNCs have already agreed to.
I can add something like that, I'll take it even one step. We're going to be more stringent than Medford, partially because.
Based on not.
Right. So as long as you're comfortable with a little bit of loose language around Medford, yes.
Yeah. So based on work, where do we put that?
Right there at the end of the word agreement requirements in the Medford model would be added.
Medford code. It's a code.
Which will include administrative.
It's modifying requirements.
You want to amend 3.345 reflective of, or the whole entire approach of Medford.
I don't know what 3435 is.
Can I make the motion?
Yeah, you can do. Yep, you got it.
Okay,
And we can-
I'll
and
make
we
the
know
motion.
what
Tell
you
me
use.
if this gets there, because I think it may.
Yeah.
Move to approve the proposed approach for city licensing of transportation network companies and certification of TNC drivers, which will include administrative changes to insurance and vehicle inspection requirements in the Medford model.
I'd say code.
In the Medford Code model? And to direct the city manager to schedule a public hearing on an ordinance that will amend EC 3.345 to allow implementation of the proposed approach.
Second.
Okay, Alan?
Just to clarify, so that we are going to be a little bit more stringent than Medford, so it's just based on.
That's why I use that word.
Based on the Medford code, so you'll come back with actual language.
And partly what I understand is rather than may, you want will. I mean, that's kind of
Shall.
partly what you'd like.
Yeah, may and could need to be shall and should.
I mean, that's the basic bottom line of some of these things, right? And so.
And they'll accept it.
They already did.
Are we ready for a vote? Any other comments? All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much for speeding through that for us, and we are adjourned.